Do you remember Pam when she came and presented?
Yeah,
She's great. Yeah.
it's a great lecture.
She's wonderful to work with.
She seems really sweet.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second half of Geriatrics Week. For those of you who are new to the area, as of this morning, the Division of Geriatric Medicine hosts its extravaganza 2018 Geriatrics Week for Interprofessional Geriatrics Week starting on Monday. This is a required course for the third year medical students. And we managed to rein in, rope in a lot of other folks as well. So this session of the morning is really to help faculty, get excited, and also to do a little bit of faculty development with you guys so that you feel like uber prepared on Monday morning to hit the ground running, which is more than how I feel right now. Anyway, so good. So we have 3 days left. Starts on Monday. The purpose of our course, for folks of you who are new, is to introduce medical students and other health profession students to the concept and assessment of geriatric conditions. Is to teach comprehensive interprofessional approach to the complex older adult. So it's the main agenda and the not so hidden agenda. Turns out that we are one of the few places, if not the only place, where all medical students really get interprofessional training. So just a couple of announcements to sort of start the morning off. I did not get a chance to revisit the medical student or the student mistreatment policy, and I would be quite remiss to not do that, especially in light of the recent LCME mock visit. The real LCME visit comes in the spring, and so we've all had to do interviews and that kind of thing with a mock visitor in the past week because I didn't have enough to do already. So a big thing that's come up here at Pitt, and I mentioned it last year, I'm going to dwell on it. I am going to dwell on it for a minute or two here, is student mistreatment. And for those of you who don't know, Pitt is a little bit of an outlier in student mistreatment, and there's been more reported student mistreatment here at this university than most, especially most in our sort of range, mid to top tier level medical school, and because of that, so there on the report on the instance of about 30+%. So that's pretty high. It's pretty far outlier. I think in terms of reported mistreatment episodes, in most, the national average is somewhere in the low to mid 20s. The medical school has a policy for reporting, and they've been asking students at the end of every rotation about the rotation they did 3 months ago and whether or not they experienced or were exposed to mistreatment and unprofessional conduct by faculty, residents, and other health professionals. They are being pushed to report, and it's kind of like a risk master system. And so I just wanted you all to be aware of what constitutes a student mistreatment, and be careful not to tread into quicksand. So I will get to the policy, and I'll get to the definition in just a second. On Monday morning, we're going to be registering the students. This year, we're actually going to be providing, thank you, Division of Geriatric Medicine, a light breakfast to the medical students and other participants. They're going to come in hopefully close to 7:30, register, get their packets, get their schedules, get their inserts for the things that I forgot to put in the syllabus, and they're also going to get a series of pre-test, post-tests. The pre-test, post-tests do count towards their grade, so sometime in the morning while they're sitting there quietly absorbing their breakfast and their coffee, hopefully they'll be completing their pre-test, post-test that we can collect in that time. So we're going to have them collected, I think, Neil, well before your session so that there is not that distraction during your session. The light breakfast is there because our very first speaker is for the biology of aging time slot. We have these 3 mini lectures over the course of the week. And the first one is biology of aging. It'll be given by I think it's Shannon Powell. She used to be here at Benedum, nutritionist, and our nutrition researcher canceled at the last minute, and so Shannon graciously has stepped in to talk about protein metabolism and how that changes in older people. I think that'll be pretty exciting. And while people are learning about protein metabolism, they will be thinking about what they chose for breakfast, whether that was protein-based or carbohydrate-based. They'll have an option. Then we'll move into the interprofessional team activity, organized chaos, known as the paper chain team building activity. That's pretty fun, getting a whole auditorium of 200 plus students to do team building. And yes, I fully anticipate that one of the comments that I'll get on the eval is about how much paper I wasted, how many trees I killed in the process. That was one of the comments last year. So.
We love you, Rollins.
I know, I'm so dented. I was like, but so the registration, I think the medical school is going to be able to take care of most of that. But at the registration desk, somewhere in or near there, will be our people helping to get you guys set up. And so we have outside now your facilitator packets for the pharm case and also for the geri syndromes. But we will also have a stack for you guys on Monday morning. We have a schedule with room assignments out there, so you can copy down your room assignment today. And if you misplace that, then guess what? We'll have it again on or near or around the registration table on Monday morning as well. So we are going to be sending out electronically, and so we're killing trees, and we're going to be killing, I guess, fiber optics, and pushing out lots of information. So we're going to try to personalize the packets that you need will be the packets that you get via email. Most of the facilitator materials have been prepared. We just need to bundle them and push them out to you. But if you need paper, which most of us do, here it is as a reference for you to look at today. Feel free to email, call, ask questions. I'll probably be here through the weekend working on the course, and I really don't mind a little distraction from a friendly colleague. Skills Fair Huddle, we're going to get together, and any unfriendly colleagues, don't bother calling me. On Monday, a little afternoon, we were going to provide lunch, but we decided to provide breakfast for the medical students instead. Bag lunch. So for those of you who say, oh gosh darn it, I have a skills fair thing a table I'm supposed to be running, and I have no idea what the flow of this activity is. And we will recap it really super quick in just a second. I want to make sure that I go in and sort of, get my Zen going so that I am ready for my marathon teaching session from 1 to 4 at the skills fair. If you want to come and huddle up and find out what make sure that you do a dry run of the drill and know what you're supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to be going. You can come and hang out with us in LR1 starting at 12:15. Then you'll be dispatched to your stations at 12:45. Ring of Knowledge, who wants one? Don't raise your hand and tell me, tell Eileen. There's been a printer issue this week, so we just got our delivery of skills cards last night. And there's going to be an assembly line this morning at the medical school and one over here putting together, welcome, putting together the rings of knowledge. For those of you who don't know what the rings of knowledge are, as we have some newcomers. These are our nutrition experts, nutrition and dietetics. They joined the committee this year, as I told you last week, the nutrition and dietetics program. Will be sending quite a large number of students. So back to the rings of knowledge. So the ring of knowledge is basically a 3x5 skills card that represents a geriatric assessment. 18 geriatric assessments are assembled in the ring of knowledge. And students will be going to these different stations on Monday during the skills fair to learn geriatric assessment. The ring of knowledge, we have purchased a few extras. I think that Eileen and Beth asked you guys if you wanted a ring of knowledge and took your orders. And if you did not let them know, then please tell them. They will be ready for you on Monday because they have not yet been assembled today. Prizes.
Is the ring of knowledge much different than last year's ring of knowledge?
It is. We rotated out 6 skill stations and created 6 new ones. So some overlap. So some old, some new. And I don't know, I can't give you the 6 new ones and take your 6 old ones. You know, I wish I could, but you'll just have to have, like my office, you'll just have to have a desk cluttered with lots of rings of knowledge, each different. And this year, I think it's labeled for the 2018 ring, so that, you know, you can actually know which one you're picking up, which is something I don't know whenever I pick one of my 5 up. Hospital Survivor, Liz, I will get you prizes. There will be prizes for the winner of Hospital Survivor and also for the winners, the team winners of Is It Worth It? The prizes are very simple. It'll just be coffee cards. I hope that's okay with everybody. And remember, everybody, wherever you are, whether it's Monday during the skills fair, if you happen to be in the audience for the paper chain, please take pictures of these events and send them into Linda, Eileen, and Beth. We're going to create a running photo collage that will be running during the period right before their final exam on Friday morning. And they love, it's kind of a nice way to punctuate the week with an exclamation point and send everybody out with a smile on their face. So wherever you are, get some candid camera photos, please. Okay, so on to our first question, or our first quiz question, trivia. So name 3 examples of student mistreatment. It's kind of a broad term. We're going to drill down to specifics.
Discrimination.
What kinds?
Sexual discrimination. I mean, discrimination based on gender. Discrimination based on
any kind of discrimination.
Yeah.
You had some.
Harassment.
Harassment's another one.
Personal remarks.
Yep. Inflammatory or derogatory or hurtful comments. What else? I have a list of about 10 or 12.
Would neglect be considered?
Ignoring this, my medical student felt really ignored and reported.
That's such a common complaint among medical students.
Well, it is, but it's not considered mistreatment.
Okay.
Using students as employees? Yes, for service, for your own personal service. Yep.
Like shaming? Like
Yep.
shaming?
Yep. Embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
Them. Yep. Good. There's still more.
Kind of asking trivia,
Like pimping, like I'm doing right now? Are you serious? Are you going to report me?
but like for things that aren't, I guess, medically relevant, and then I guess that'd be packaged with some sort of expression.
Okay,
Disgust
so
of
derision.
they're asking.
All right, so here are examples. So public humiliation might be what you were getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So that's the term for that. So public humiliation, physical harm, psychological cruelty. And I suppose that anyone on test day could be considered dishing out a whole lot of psychological cruelty. Asking people to do personal things for you, pick up my laundry, and I'll give you a higher grade. Unwanted sexual advances, reward grades for sexual favors. Deny the opportunity based, again, discrimination, grading according to standard other than performance, threatening with harm, sexual harassment, and subject to offensive comments. All of those fall under the purview. And hey, guess what? If you guys come across students, and I know we did last year, students who are actually the ones who are inflicting harm on the faculty, because we actually did have a couple of incidences last year where we had some really mouthy students who made some really disrespectful and offensive comments to some of our faculty. And so what do you do in that instance? And yes, you need to do it because it goes both ways. You report them. Yep. So if you guys come across this in the moment, I need to know about it. It needs to get reported to the medical school. For the incidences that were reported last year, actions were taken actually. And those students had to go and apologize, and there was the threat of other consequences. So it goes both ways, and I will. I don't know how to say that to the students that, if you guys are really abusive in the way that you talk to us, then you have consequences to pay as well. I don't think I'm allowed to say that, nor should I have to say that, right?
I think there's also a role we should play in addressing it like right there
Yep.
in the moment? Like
Yeah, I agree.
that's an inappropriate comment,
Yeah.
just to be clear, like to the group.
Yeah, please feel armed and, be able
I think
to.
that's the most powerful.
Yeah.
Thing.
I was impressed. I was impressed. The med school acted that same day. There was action taken that same day. They didn't want this student going out to the sites and being an embarrassment to the university, to the med school and all. They acted that same day. I'm talking about the higher up administration. They had that kid in their office that same day. I was impressed.
So if they're at the back of a lecture hall, you can't see their name tag.
So actually, we had so I also got some similar activity when on the final day with the dementia talk, and it was one of the two same people that had acted out earlier. One became, for whatever reason, figured out that he needed to flip a switch and go the other way, and became a little more humbled, I guess, and kind of was like, okay, I recognize that I've trespassed yet again, and was a little bit apologetic even in the lecture hall, but the other one was not, but the other one was kind of quieted down by his colleagues, and there were apologies for that in the evaluations, at least one or two. So yeah, at least for most of the lectures, there are there's people in the audience, and many of them are so interactive that if you're misbehaving, like what happened last year in my talk, we were right beside that person up the aisle toward the back of the lecture hall. So if you see something or hear something when one of your colleagues is talking, and you happen to be around and you hear a student who's being a jerk, then feel free to approach that person, tap them on the shoulder, and ask them to come out and let them know that their behavior is not okay. The immediate feedback is really tremendously important, because sometimes people say things and do things and they don't really realize the impact of their words right in the moment.
I just wanted to point a couple things. So I'm on the website for the Professionalism or Mistreatment Incident Report form.
Yep, that's right.
I don't know if you're going to go over this.
Yep,
Sorry. Well, then
So-
I'll let you. Sorry.
So faculty can use this. Students are being asked to use it every single month. They're being pushed to report. So I almost feel like they're overly pressured to report.
What I was going to comment on this, and this is the first time I'm reviewing. I know this came out from Art Levine's, or this week, I believe there was a notice of this.
Yep. This is because the mock reviewers are here this week, and it's a big deal, and it has gone right on up the food chain.
My point saying is that prior slide of examples is not on this website, which I think is
I actually lifted it from the website. At least I thought I did. And I had it in a slide for last week. We just never got to this, so that's why I'm putting it at the front this week. Just to let you know, just be careful about your comments. There have been comments from folks in this course, believe it or not. They were offhand, intended as joking, but they landed poorly, just to be clear. So we are not, just because we're nice people doesn't mean that we don't sometimes tread into quicksand.
Can you just give an example of how you would deliver real-time feedback in a situation where a student was demonstrating inappropriate behavior?
If you don't have a buddy in the audience, like
Right.
I mean, I think we have to agree to have each other's back on this.
Right.
But if that
Right.
person, if that's not available to you, then if you're receiving it, you need to I think I probably would.
I mean, can you just say
You
the
can
words?
pause and say, "Excuse me, what was your name again?" I mean, you could call them out in the audience if you wanted to, and then if you had to, keep their name, or you could remember where they are and then bolt up to where they are at the end of your talk and find out.
Another way of that's one way, but that's assuming you understand. Another way to get them is, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you meant by that. And even if you know exactly what they meant by that, by them saying it again or in a different way, allows everybody to hear them say it and clarify further, because it's like trapping them in a way. So I would say, I'm sorry, I didn't really hear what you had to say, or can you clarify further what your comment means? What does that really mean? Because you're not really sure what they're saying. It gives them an opportunity to reflect on the statement that they made.
And it allows you to hit the pause button instead of having a
And now you have everybody's attention. Everyone's in on it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What? Rather than just saying what's your name, because that's very punitive. Like,
Yeah.
who are you? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Can you repeat what you just said? Because I'm not sure I caught all that. Because maybe there's some truth, or maybe there's some value to that. Now, we didn't like the way it was stated, because that's why you're pausing. However,
But I
it
like
gives
that.
them an opportunity to autocorrect as well, because maybe they misfired. I mean, I don't know.
As
But
we all do.
yeah, so it gives them the opportunity to reset themselves rather than just immediately approaching them in a punitive manner. That's my opinion. That's how I do
I think
it.
you're right. I think always hit the pause button if you can first before you say something equally disrespectful or angry.
Yeah, because we may jump and react to that immediately and say, "Whoa, what the heck?" I mean,
Right.
you know.
That's great.
So I just wanted to make sure that we got this out of there, because this was a kind of a big issue last year, and I didn't want to leave you guys hanging without a plan in case it happens again this year. Different class, different personality. I have no idea what we're in for. I'm not familiar with the personality of this particular class. You guys have seen the schedule. I'm not going to go over it again, but I am going to tell you that what we're going to cover today, really quickly. We're going to talk about the syndromes and facilitating the syndromes case, as well as the Geri pharm case. We are going to talk about, we're going to give one last, the next thing we're going to do is just review again the drill at the health fairs. It turns out we have a lot of new people at the health fairs this year. A few, some of us, half of us have done it before, and the other half have not, and some sites actually have all new people. So we need to just go over this, and remember we're broadcasting to other folks who have dialed in so that they could watch this remotely to get the facilitator prep from some of the other programs. So Rachel will talk about that. I'll go over the long-term care site visits really quickly. We'll touch on advanced care planning, the health fairs, and is it worth it? And then we'll wrap up in a couple of minutes, okay? After that. So Rachel, you are up.
Awesome. So we're actually going to just hit some highlights, because I have meticulously put together some materials for every single facilitator that are on Pitbox. Can you raise your hand if you are a facilitator in the skills fair on Monday afternoon? Okay, great. And keep it up if you're a first time. Okay, all right, great. So and raise your hand if you do not know what Pitbox is or how to access it. Okay. So let's make sure that we touch base afterward, and then I know that you're working with Dave, and he's very seasoned.
Aw, Dave.
in terms of the sharpness of his skills.
And you don't mean that they've started to get dull either.
That's not what I
Be
mean.
careful.
I'm recording right now. I'm online right here. I got the form up. Can you repeat that again? What did you mean by that? Yeah. Repeat. What exactly? I'm not sure I understood.
Sorry.
So, no, don't worry at all. So again, the skills fair, everything, the schedule from start to finish is on Pitbox. So please go to the facilitator materials there. The major things that I want to highlight are the 12:15 session for those of you who are new, or those of you who are working with a new partner for the first time. That 30 minutes from 12:15 to 12:45 before we go to the stations and set up is a really ideal time to ask any last minute questions and run through what your lesson plan is going to be.
And huddle up with your partner, because most of us have partners or buddies at our stations.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Good place to
There's
meet.
cookies, right?
And grab cookies.
Yeah, there's gonna be
Thank
cookies
you.
and water, and yeah, there will be carbohydrate fuel, immediately accessible fuel for you.
And so just to reinforce, I'm literally going over the highlighted sections of my materials that have been provided. So the thing that you need to know between now and Monday is what you've got to have done before you show up, right? So what you need to have done is essentially your lesson plan. You've all already got the skill card that's going to be handed out to the students. You've all already got a copy of the assessment form that students are going to be using when they go to the health fairs, okay? So you're using a 12-minute segment for each student group that comes through to your station to teach them how to do that assessment skill, using the skill card as a reference, how to interpret their findings from that assessment and write it down on the form that they're using at the health fairs, and giving them an opportunity to practice it. So 12 minutes goes by really fast, which is why we really, really strongly encourage you to have a lesson plan and rehearse it at least once before you like put it into action at the skills fair. The last thing, I think the major point is that you guys are going to be stamping each student's schedule as they go through, and at 4 p.m. at the end of the skills fair, you're going to be handing out skills cards. Which, do you mind holding up that one, Allie? This is what it looks like. This is the ring of knowledge. It's a little binder ring with the 18 different skills cards on it.
And you will have exactly the right number to match the number of students at your last station.
And I think plus 2 for every station, or 1 for every facilitator at the station.
Yeah. Facilitators might get them before. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but yeah, there'll be a box of cards for you. And the student has to hand over their bingo card in order for you to, in order to receive a ring of knowledge. And the bingo card has to be filled.
Any questions about the skill fair? That's Monday afternoon. Okay. My email is also on the materials that you have, so you can email me or call me if you have that number. Okay, so then moving on to the health assessment fairs. Is that a different slide?
Yeah, that's where you are. I didn't put up the skills fair slide.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so you can reference behind me the schedule for the morning of the health fairs. And remember, health fairs take place on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 different sites each day. So raise your hand if you're going to a health fair site. Excellent. Keep it raised if you've never been to a health fair before. Okay, so Allie's new. That's great. So some of you are going to be, as Raleigh mentioned, working with new people. So we rely on you guys to kind of help keep them grounded and just move through the morning smoothly. The mantra that I think we should all go into those mornings saying to ourselves is be flexible, expect the unexpected. You guys have all done it before, and you know that you show up each time and it's different every time. So we have 2 new, actually 3 new health fair sites this year.
Don't say it. It's a quiz question.
Okay. So I'm not going to name the sites.
Yeah, no, I can name the sites. So this gives you like a little warning. Get it, so you can get your coffee cards.
Okay. All right. So maybe I won't share any more information about that.
Let's
Okay.
talk about just quickly run through the morning, and then some facts, like 1 or 2 facts.
So what you need to know for that morning is buses are going to be showing up in front of Scaife Hall to pick up all of the students and any facilitators that would like to ride the bus. Eileen sent out an email to anybody who's facilitating, so please respond to her if you're planning to ride the bus. One facilitator who's riding the bus should be responsible for picking up a supply box that morning in front of Scaife Hall and walking it over to the bus, getting it on the bus, and then at the end of the health fair in the morning, making sure that box ends up back on the bus
With the stuff
with everything
with the equipment
that it originally had in it. So there's a list of everything that's in there. If a facilitator is not riding the bus, it's fine to assign that to a student and have. Yeah.
How do we go about assigning it to a student?
At Scaife, we take care of it.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
you
so
don't have to worry about that.
We
you're not riding the bus,
descend
you don't
upon
worry
a
about
poor student who looks lost and helpless and totally gullible, and we say,
And we
"Can you
empower
take and be
them.
in charge of this box?" I know.
Well, and you're going to get us all
Oh
in
my
trouble.
God.
And we empower that student to
Yeah, we are
in charge.
empowering the student. We are empowering the gullible student.
All right, awesome. So
We're not victimizing them; we're empowering them.
okay, so
Did you understand
that's
what
it.
she was
So 7:30.
She's lifting.
7:30 is when we're kind of showing up, getting on the buses and that kind of stuff. I'm riding the bus, so I'll be there that morning. It's a lot of chaos, but people with clipboards are very informative that morning. The buses are leaving.
It's herding cats, but it somehow gets done. All the cats get on the right bus.
So you can see that we're all on the bus. We're leaving by 7:30. You're going to get to your site, depending on how far away it is, between 8 and 8:30. Some people, very rarely are people going to get there before 8. So be flexible with your arrival time. The good news is that the very first appointment slot for assessments isn't until 9. So that gives you at least 30 minutes to get everything set up.
And you don't even need that much time. I
You
mean,
really
it's super
don't.
fast.
You have lots of helpers to help set that up. What you're going to need to do, though, is, again, be flexible when you arrive, because there may be nothing set up. There may be everything set up. And that's okay, because you have lots of helpers and you know what to do. And the box has all the instructions and everything to do. There is also on the front page of your facilitator guide the contact number for the activities coordinator at your site. I should have put my phone number on here, and maybe I'll have Eileen send that out so that if you do have any last minute issues, you can contact me as a last. Yeah. Okay, so please know that if you're going to an assisted living, those sites are, just real quick, those sites are smaller, so it's going to be a more compact space. And they also tend to have a more frail and or cognitively impaired population. So make sure your students know that when you're sort of prepping them in the morning and
the assessment will be positive.
Right, which is fun. You know, it's fun. So it's just a different population. Yes, Dr.
Jim
Lamb.
and I were just talking. Yeah, we think. I mean, that 30 minutes is really important because of some of the sites. You walk in and they don't have enough patients signed up, and so you got to strategize about that. And so I think it does take 30 minutes.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I thought it would be kind of helpful to go over some of the commonly encountered issues when you show up. And you brought up a really big one.
Yep.
So sometimes you show up, and especially for that 9 o'clock appointment spot, there are no participants there. Everybody's kind of milling about. They're maybe still getting dressed. They're having breakfast on their own or doing their various different things. So does anybody have any helpful strategies that have helped them recruit participants when there weren't any?
And remember, these are participants, not patients. And we're not treating them and we're not diagnosing them. We're just declaring at risk, not at risk. That's what the assessments do.
So we didn't have any trouble with the early slots. I mean, there may not be an adequate number, and so we would have, a group of, 3, 4, sometimes more students with one participant.
Learning together. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an excellent strategy.
And they enjoyed that.
So instead of the 2 students, that is typical, one medical student, one other health professional, because they're interprofessional.
Yeah, do your best to make sure that they're pairing up and mixing and matching. Do not let them clump together from one discipline.
So instead of doing that, having more students with each participant is one way.
And also sometimes, residents would be walking by, what's going on, whatever. Yeah. And then we would take, if there was a big group of students with, one participant, we would, say, hey, you guys, there's, a new person here. Would you like to? Perfect. I think that the name of the game is flexibility.
Yeah.
And flexible, and proactive.
Yes.
If there aren't enough patients, like Jim and I would stand around and say, "Ooh, how would you like to come and participate? Be a little bit proactive."
Those are awesome ideas. You can even
you can pick up some facilitated materials as you're leaving outside. They're on the desk.
Some of the activities coordinators will go around and knock on doors. They all know their communities, and they kind of know what the best strategies are. So come to them, ask them for help, and they know how to do this. I'm going to be at the 2 new sites I'm going to be at 2 of the new sites. Roland will be at the 3rd new site. So we are there to help troubleshoot for those particular places. One other really helpful strategy is for each participant, when you don't have enough participants for the morning, have each student spend more time with each one. So
more assessments.
On the menu, participants are selecting different assessments that they want to have done, and we limit them to 5. Each person can pick 3, and then every participant gets orthostatic blood pressure and development or coming up with a SMART goal with their students. If you don't have enough participants, just have them do 8, 10 assessments. Go through the entire menu of assessments with them. On the flip side, if you have people waiting in line, maybe those 3 appointment slots can be shortened so that you have 4 appointment slots. If these are relatively healthy adults and you're able to get through them, you don't have to belabor the counseling part.
And filling out the healthcare menu. So at some sites, the coordinator has already gone through that with the participants that they've signed up. And so they're already going to have sort of a health menu in hand. And other sites, participants have no idea. I mean, there's so many cognitively impaired people that they're not going to be able to do that. And so one of the facilitators can help them go over the health fair, like the menu. So one facilitator can be mingling with the students and making sure all their questions are answered. And the other one can be helping to bring in participants and just fill out the health. I mean, just fill out whatever and just mix it up a little bit.
So please go to this facilitator guide. It has everything in it. If you can't read the whole thing, just read the highlighted sections. It really has everything you need to know, and there are FAQs on the back.
Sometimes there are perceived medical emergencies. One year, a student talked to somebody with a passive death wish and was really concerned that that person was actively suicidal. And it turned out that that person's PCP walked into the building at that point in time, like, oh yeah, this person has really bad depression, and they're kind of fixated and perseverate on this death wish thing. So they weren't actively suicidal, but the students didn't know that. And then we, even last year, we had somebody who was tachycardic and then had a high blood pressure as well. And so what do you do in those moments? And the students should be told, you tell them, like, if you come across a really scary blood pressure or a vital sign, or if there's something happening at your table that you're really worried about, get us over there and we will, we can do a quick assessment and figure out, do we need to call 911 or whatever. So things happen. Sometimes students don't know exactly what they're looking at and think that it's maybe a little worse than it is. All right, so 3 health fair sites. We blasted through them last week. I don't know if you remember.
I know where they are.
Okay.
They're Homestead.
Yep.
Braddock.
Yep.
And Asbury.
Yep.
Nice, very nice. And thank you for volunteering to come to some of the new sites.
So,
So Rachel, how are you going to handle 2? They're all far. They're all
They're on 2
separated.
different days.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I spread them out so I can make sure.
I just want to mention for a second that the 2 new health fair sites are sites that are in underserved communities. This was a big push and feedback that we got from the medical students. They really felt like they were seeing a lot of rich white people. You know, in today's day and age, we cannot afford to come away with that being our main message. And so we took some liberties and extended beyond the 9 UPMC senior communities. These communities do have a loose UPMC affiliation with them. So there's a community-based nurse from UPMC out there at these communities. One is a community life site. So anyway, exciting to have these new places involved. Okay. All right. So Monday morning, Dr. Resnick. So Monday morning is really busy, as we've already talked about. This is where Dr. Resnick gives his award-winning geriatric syndromes talk. I'm going to pause for a second to say that so every year I get the breakdown of the evaluations and what was highly rated, what was not highly rated. Dr. Resnick hits it out of the park. And even though it's a lecture, and I'm going to say that, Neil, even though it's a lecture, the students love it. Just the way that he talks to and gets people excited about aging. I mean, people really are energized by his talk. And I think a lot of us who have heard it feel the same way. So it's sort of the rallying cry to the troops. In the middle of his lecture, he's going to hit the pause button. People are going to break and go out to their small groups, and you have about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes to facilitate the problem-based learning groups. There are 16 rooms. There's roughly 15 to 16 students in each room, with 1 or 2 facilitators. We are trying really hard because this is interprofessional, and there are mostly interprofessional solutions to a lot of these geriatric problems. We're trying hard to have you guys partner with somebody from another discipline. So we have a geriatrics expert, and then we have an expert in another discipline on their geriatric issues. For example, nutrition. So nutrition, pharmacy, PT, OT, PAs, NPs. I don't think the dentistry school, I don't think, actually your mom's coming. So your mom's going to be facilitating somewhere. Or no, she's doing a skills. She's doing the afternoon. No, she's doing the skills fair at the oral exam station. So we have people from a variety of schools. If you guys take a look on the roster, see who you're partnered with, reach out to that person and say, hey, looks like we're hanging out together, and we are making, again, the facilitator packets available for everybody, and so that people who are not familiar with the cases or not familiar with how to facilitate a group can kind of get primed up and to do that. For if you are not familiar with how to conduct or facilitate, and again, this is where you're the guide on the side, you're not the sage on the stage. For these problem-based learning groups, there is a sort of an instruction manual on how to run a PBL group. So just take a quick gander at that. And basically, the students are supposed to do the problem solving, and we're kind of listening in And when they are veering in the wrong direction, we are gently nudging them into the right direction. We are not lecturing them. And that is really hard for me because I'm just a big time talker and that's all I know how to do. So I really have to work hard to not talk. And so some of you extroverts out there may find yourselves in the same situation. Introverts have no problem not talking. Quickly, for those of you who might have a packet in front of you, there are 2 cases for the syndromes. The first case is Verna. We changed the names and the identity of the original person, but the case is a delirium case. This is really important. They need the skills from this case in order to do the next, to do the simulation, the new simulation that they're going to do the next day. On the delirium case, I went back and tried to simplify it a little bit. I took out a couple of aspects of the case, but in this case, she lives independently, but she's starting to get challenged. And she's the falls. Verna's the fall. The other case is a delirium case. The first case is a falls case, and Verna is going to appear the next day in the pharm case 5 years later. She's aging rapidly, and then she's going to appear again in hospital survivor. So in syndromes, she's living independently. In the pharmacology case, she has been in the hospital for a pneumonia and then goes to skilled care, and there's a transitions of care med rec component to that the next day. And then at hospital survivor, she is much older. She's aged another 5 years, and she's in the hospital at that point in time with a hip fracture. So Verna, despite our best efforts, has encountered all of the geriatric syndromes. When you are facilitating, pay attention to the 4 or 5 questions at the end of the case. The facilitator packet that is attached to there's a case, and then there's a facilitator sort of cheat sheet with the answers on the backside. What would be nice when you're facilitating is to know who in the audience, like when you first get in the room, kind of have them introduce themselves and where they're from, like what discipline they're in, and make sure you know who's planted in your audience, because you're going to ask them to show their expertise and strength in this case as well. In your cheat sheet, there is a little more specific information. So what would be the role of nutrition in the falls case? And you can draw a little bit on the lecture from Monday morning to help answer that question. And if you have a nutrition and dietetic student in the audience, well, you don't have to do any work at all, because that person's going to know what the role of the nutritionist in nutrition is in the falls case. Same thing with the delirium case, which is Simon. So Simon has Parkinson's disease and has gotten some new meds that have totally scrambled his brain. And he's in a rehab setting, and they're ready to throw in the towel because his brain's just not clearing up with his delirium. And you guys are going to help the students solve the problem with the delirium. There's 4 or 5 questions there. Land hard on the predisposing and precipitating risk factors for delirium. Their materials for the delirium are going to be the Shea article. I did switch it out. So I switched out the reading materials. Those should be also on Pitbox. So the background reading materials, which they will not have looked at. I mean, they all have Access Navigator right now, but they will not have read these articles. It's an even briefer article by Shea on delirium, an overview of delirium, and then there's a new Falls article, which has the same old content, but maybe a little bit more, even a little bit more condensed. And then they also have the incontinence article for the last case, which they're going to do in the lecture room with Neil. So again, the answers to the 4 or 5 questions are in your packets. Just make sure that you're steering them through all of the questions for both cases. Going to the next day with.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
So the goal is to have them. We're trying to transform their preconceptions that everything is organ based. So that delirium is brain and falls or peripheral neuropathy or autonomic dysfunction or something. And so they see the predisposing factors, many are the same. They see the interventions, many are the same. The workup is the same. And we're trying to get them to come to this epiphany that you have a vulnerable person, and it's the weakest link that determines which way you go. So this person might have had delirium this time, but might be incontinent next time, or falls the next time, or depressed the next time, or whatever. So we're trying to get them to that epiphany. So that's sort of where you're going to end is, so we've gone through delirium and we found out it wasn't just the brain. And we went through the falls and found it wasn't just the usual. So is there anything in common that we might be able to infer or induce a more generalizable thing? And that's where I'll take them back. And then I'll say, so in the follow-up lecture that they get, we say, now how generalizable is this? We saw how we've gone the head, we've gone the toe, what about in the middle? Does this apply to more than just two things? And then we're going to use that to form an entirely new approach to care of the older person, which was the basis of Golden Care, which we developed for the health plan. So that's sort of what the strategy is. And the specifics about, for those of the medical students who really want to get deep into pathophysiology, I've given you every single thing that would be a part of the delirium thing, including things that we don't usually think about. We usually think about general categories of meds and this and that. But I've gone down into all the different levels at organ-based things for those people who really want to do it. So you can really knock it out of the park if you want for that person, or be more general. But make sure you get to the general. Yeah.
So for the first case, there are no guidelines on the answers for questions 4 or 6. It goes 1, 2, 3, 5.
So tell me again what you're looking at.
Okay, so I'm looking at case 1, and I'm looking at the key points about falls. Okay.
Yep.
So there are 6 questions.
Right.
We are only given guidance on 4 of them.
Right. So actually, the guidance is embedded in some of what you would the answers to the questions are subsumed in the answers to the other questions, except for the one on dysesthesias. So I don't have the guidance for that particular question that Neil has in the facilitator packet. I went back through old facilitator packets and I couldn't find it. And it was too late for me to cobble it together. So you might have to wing the dysesthesias part.
I mean, I can wing it. Yeah,
I mean, most of us could. And I was like, but if there's a doctor in there, we'll be able to do it.
The other thing you tell me is
confusing.
All the details about that came right out of our research, so that this is all empirically based stuff. Because that's the other thing we're trying to get through to them, is that there's this preconception of what is a geriatrician. And we're trying to get to them that
I
we
was
would
just
really.
saying there was 2 items missing.
Yeah, okay.
Real basic.
Okay, I'm not going to linger on the trivia question because it'll take too much time away. Pharmacology, same principles apply, and there's going to be a whole posse of pharmacists available to co-facilitate. And again, it's mostly bedrock. There's a primer available on Pitbox for people who have not received any training in pharmacology, so you can get the basics. And so that you can speak knowledgeably, about, which drugs affect appetite, or which drugs cause dry mouth, and things like that that impact, for example, nutrition. So again, primers are available for the folks who have not received any pharmacologic training. The slides are going to be available for the lecture that Christine's giving. They are in the syllabus, and they are going to be available on Pitbox if you want to look and see what she's going to be talking about right before that session. That session is from 2:25 to 3:35, I want to say. So you have an hour and 10 minutes. They are putting together, they actually have a worksheet that they have to fill out, 1 worksheet per team room. It has to be turned in to, has to be emailed to Beth. They have until sometime on Wednesday to do it. And so the whole hour and 10 minutes is geared to completing the worksheet. It is set up nicely so that you can kind of go through it pretty smoothly. Take a look at the worksheet, know what the task is for them so that you can help push them through it. Don't push too hard or else they might think that you're overbearing like they and I was last year. So I was really worried that they weren't going to get the work done in time. And so I kept trying to nudge them and they didn't like it. They pushed back. Any questions about the pharm case?
We're going to do the 9:30.
Yep. Last thing, I have a packet for facilitators for each of the long-term care sites. We have a facilitator packet for the health fairs. The new activity hospital survivor doesn't pertain to anybody in the room here because it's kind of a self-directed simulation. But if you're curious, that's where the students are going to have a chance to round on a simulated patient in a simulation room at the nursing school. And they're going to have to, in their team, do some problem solving about this delirious patient. So they're going to put concept into practice. So they're going to learn a little bit about delirium. Then they're going to apply skills and problem solving skills at the bedside the next day. And I think that is all we have time for. If you have any questions, obviously we're around. If you're facilitating on something that you don't know what you're supposed to do, again, just talk to us individually.
Would it be mistreatment if we have our geriatric fellow candidates involved in this?
Not at all. They are.
Invite them back for next week.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys, we have some slots that haven't been filled, and you're hired, all of you. All right, thank you everybody for your attention. Let's go. It's exciting. It's here. We're ready.
How do we turn this off?
Turn it off. All you do, hit the power button up there on top.
Here?
You have to hold it down, and then it should power down.